Hello everybody, it's Grandad Wheels here. I'm feeling very Christmassy. Look, I've got my Christmas jumper on, and today I'm going to read a brand new story called Grandad in the Grotto. It was the 1st of November and all the shops near where Grandad lives were putting up their Christmas decorations, just like they did at this time every year. And every year Granny and Grandad complained that they should wait until December.
It was only Halloween yesterday,
said Granny.
It spoils it if you ask me.
But Charlie didn't agree. He loved it when all the shops started to look festive and he could start thinking about all the presents he'd be getting this year. And this year, something new was happening that made it even more exciting than usual. Cheap Food Supermarket had opened a toy department at the back of the store, and Charlie couldn't wait to have a look. The very next day, Charlie's mum took him to the supermarket to get some things for school lunches, and Charlie noticed a big sign by the entrance. The poster said, "Come and meet Santa in his grotto this Saturday. Includes present." It actually said £5 per child, but for some reason Charlie didn't notice that. "Look, Mum," shouted Charlie, "Santa's coming here on Saturday. Will it be the real one?" "No, I don't think so," answered Charlie's mum. "Sometimes shops have pretend Santas to help the real Father Christmas when he's very, very busy. But if we come and see this one tomorrow, he might give you a present." Charlie's face lit up. That would be great, he thought. Charlie's mum was starting to browse through the magazines on the counter just inside the entrance, and Charlie was getting bored. But then he spotted something. There was a much smaller notice underneath the big one. Charlie leaned in close to read it. "Wanted urgently, Santa to work in Cheap Food's Christmas Grotto. Must like children and be able to sit still for long periods. Uniform supplied. Apply to the store manager, Jan Greenwood at cheapfoods.co.uk. Thought Charlie. That could be perfect for my Grandad. I'm a child and he likes me, and he sits in his wheelchair all day, so he'd be perfect for the job. And Granny might be pleased as it'll get him out from under her feet for a while." Charlie thought if his Grandad was the Cheap Food Santa, he might get a better present than everybody else. And he could get Grandad to give presents out to all his friends from school. So the next day after school, Charlie wrote an email and sent it to the store manager at the address on the poster. He told her all about his Grandad and how he thought he'd make a brilliant Santa. Then he waited for a reply. Charlie got an answer from the store manager almost straight away. She said they needed to find somebody very quickly because the person that was going to be Santa was very poorly. And if they didn't find someone soon, they'd have to cancel Christmas at Cheap Foods. But luckily, Charlie's Grandad sounded like he was the perfect person for the job. The store manager asked if Charlie could bring his Grandad in on Saturday morning. Then he could have a 2-hour trial at being the new Cheap Food Santa. "Yes," shouted Charlie, "this is going to be great." But then Charlie started to worry that his Grandad might not be too keen. So he decided it would be much better not to tell him until they were actually in the store. Yes, that's the best plan, thought Charlie. That Friday, Charlie told all his school friends to be at Cheap Foods first thing in the morning because Santa would have a present for them. Then after school, he asked his mum if he and Grandad could pop to the shops in the morning to get some sweets. "Of course you can," said Mum. "Just make sure Grandad's okay. You know he gets tired pushing himself all that way. And don't go getting up to any mischief. Remember the chaos you caused last time you were in there," she said. Charlie just smiled to himself as he ran upstairs to bed.
How long do I have to keep doing this for?
Just keep going, I need the sound effects.
Barney needs to walk.
"So," said the store manager, "this is your Grandad, is it? Come with me then." "Where are we going, Charlie?" said Grandad, as he didn't know what was going on. "You'll see, Grandad," said Charlie. Grandad thought, I've heard that before. "I hope you're not up to something, Charlie," he said. But Charlie just smiled to himself as they followed the store manager into the new grotto. "Now," said the manager, "you can try the uniform on and I'll be back to look at you in just a minute. And hurry up, it's almost time for the grotto to open." "What?" asked Grandad. "That's a Father Christmas outfit. Why do I need to put that on?" "I've got you a job, Grandad," said Charlie. Granny says you've been bored lately, so I thought you'd enjoy being Santa and meeting all my friends. They're all coming to see you this morning. Outside the entrance, a queue had formed. About 20 of Charlie's school friends were all stood in line waiting for the grotto to open. Grandad peeped out through the door and saw all the children. "Oh no, Charlie," said Grandad. "I can't be Santa. I haven't got any qualifications." "You don't need qualifications, Grandad," said Charlie. "You've only got to give presents out to everybody." Just then, they heard shouting coming from outside the grotto. The store manager was asking the children and the grown-ups who were with them for their £5 entrance money. But nobody had told them they needed to pay anything to get in. They just wanted their present from Santa, just like Charlie had promised. Outside the grotto, the noise grew louder. Some of the parents were getting quite angry, and some of the children were crying because they'd heard there weren't any free presents.
Everyone just go home. If you don't pay, you can't have a present.
Some children and their parents were even chanting, "What do we want? Presents! When do we want them? Now!" When Grandad saw just how upset some of the children were, he started to feel sorry for them. It wasn't their fault they thought the presents were free, and Charlie had only been trying to do something nice. So he had an idea. Grandad quickly put on the large red Santa suit and the hat with the beard attached, and he whispered something in Charlie's ear. Charlie started giggling. Then, quick as a flash, he gathered up as many presents as he could in a big sack, and he jumped up on Grandad's lap. Grandad started to push himself as fast as he could, and he smashed through the flimsy walls of the grotto. Then he was off like a rocket down the food aisles. "Come on, everyone," shouted Charlie. "Follow me." Then all Charlie's friends started to run after Grandad's wheelchair, and Charlie started throwing presents out for his friends to catch. When the store manager saw what was happening, she went wild and started waving her hands about.
Stop!
She shouted at the top of her voice, but all the children were screaming with excitement, and the parents were laughing at what was going on. Charlie started throwing presents out to all his friends, but his aim wasn't good, mainly because Grandad was going so fast. One present hit the back of the head of the man on the bakery counter, and another one landed in the freezer cabinet, the one where Grandad had knocked Granny into the frozen chips the last time they caused chaos in cheap foods. Charlie threw one last present. It flew through the air and landed on the floor just as the store manager was coming past. She tripped over the package and went flying into a big display of tins of baked beans, knocking them everywhere. "Come on, Charlie," said Grandad. "We better get out of here before we get caught. I'll have to come back later and pay for all the presents and the damage I've caused." So Grandad turned towards the checkouts and pushed himself a bit harder to make it out of the door. Once they were outside, Charlie jumped down and started walking with Grandad towards home. Behind them, in the cheap food store, it was complete chaos as everyone was scrabbling round on the floor for all the presents that were lying there. The store manager and the security guards were chasing children all around the store. As Grandad and Charlie walked home, when they got near the house, they could see Granny standing at the door, and she had her arms folded. "Uh-oh," said Grandad. "Granny doesn't look very happy."
Why have you been out so long?
asked Granny as they went up the path.
I was worried about you. I'd heard there'd been some incident in cheap foods. And why are you dressed as Santa?
Charlie and Grandad just giggled and gave each other a high five. "Granny, you wouldn't believe us if we told you," said Charlie. That afternoon, Grandad went back to Cheap Foods to take the Santa suit back and to pay for all the presents and the damage. He was expecting a big telling off from the store manager, so he was surprised when he got there and she seemed pleased to see him. "I'm sorry, I really am," said Grandad. "Oh, don't worry," said the store manager. "It wasn't your fault. And besides, when people heard what had happened, they all came in to see. We've just had our busiest Saturday ever with record takings. You can come and work here next Christmas if you like." "Oh, well, thanks for the offer," said Grandad, "but I think I'll give it a miss if you don't mind. I'm not sure I'm cut out to be Santa after all. And with that, Grandad rolled home again, smiling to himself all the way, thinking about the latest adventure he'd had with grandson Charlie. It was going to be a great Christmas. I hope you enjoyed that story. Have a great Christmas, everybody, and I hope to see you next year.